Hello there. Thank you so much for joining us. This is News Channel Nebraska. My name's Eric McKay. Let's take a look at our top headlines today. Another round of severe weather moved across Nebraska on Monday. By mid-afternoon, portions of southwest and central Nebraska had faced heavy rains, hail, and scattered tornado warnings. By Monday evening, the eastern edge of the state got their own versions of the storms, including late tornado warnings in southeast Nebraska. The northeast corner of the state didn't get quite the same severity of storms, although there were hail and downpours clocked in Cedar and Madison counties. There were 2 reports of storm-related damage in the Beatrice area during severe thunderstorms Monday night. Thunderstorm wind damage to an outbuilding was reported about 7:15 p.m., 4 miles northwest of Wymore. A second report about 5 minutes later described thunderstorm wind damage to a residence with downed power lines about 4 miles southeast of Pickerel. Torrential rains caused flash flood warnings to be issued in extreme southeast Nebraska and northwest Missouri. All this as the federal government is on the ground in already tornado-ravaged neighborhoods in Douglas and Washington counties. Disaster help teams from FEMA looking to meet with homeowners and renters to provide assistance where they can. At the same time, local, public, and private organizations also stepping up to help. Joe Jordan has more.
Following the most destructive storms to hit the Omaha area since 1975, goodwill is in anything but short supply.
We have experienced a pretty devastating time here.
Starting in St. Patrick's Church in storm-ravaged Elkhorn.
We're trying to provide relief in the many ways that we can.
As are several layers of local government. The Douglas County Board has been waiving fees for those dropping off storm-related debris at the county landfill and is expected to waive building permit fees for those looking to rebuild.
I'm going to give you just a quick overview of some of the data that's been collected. As you can see, over 834 structures have been recorded as damaged so far.
Omaha numbers that find the city council calling off the building permit fees in the city as well, but noting this.
We are not waiving the process to issue permits. We're just waiving the fees associated with those permits.
Back at St. Pat's,
we've been asked by so many people how they can help. To make a donation, all you need to do is go to our Facebook page or our website.
Or you can call the parish directly, 402-289-4289. Finally, look at this before and after sequence, just one more indication of the damage and the months and months of rebuilding left behind. In Omaha, Joe Jordan, News Channel, Nebraska.
Nebraska has certainly seen its fair share of severe weather, and now one of our most vital state resources is starting to feel the effect. Andrew Pfeiffer has more.
89.4% of land here in Nebraska is farmland, according to the Nebraska Farm Bureau, and that land is being affected by severe weather.
Severe weather is just hard on our farmers. They do the best they can to try to mitigate damage, but sometimes with Nebraska storms, there's just nothing you can do.
After a few volatile weeks marked by severe weather around the state, farmers are feeling the impact.
I know in recent years we've had a lot of damage to grain bins or silos and pivots being flipped over. May or may not have a climate change link, of course.
They just get treated rough in this state when it comes to weather. Farmers do a good job to try and protect them as best they can, but sometimes there's just things that they can't, stop.
April through July are what Doak calls the stressful months. He says that's when Nebraska insurance companies see the most traffic for claims.
Those tough claims, we try to get boots on the ground as fast as we can, even with myself or my staff. We try to get out to that farm and help out and figure out exactly what's damaged so that we can move forward.
To minimize damage, preparation is key.
The farmers that are better prepared, regardless of their size, are going to be better off. So
we got to make sure those systems are back up and running so they don't lose their crops.
Now, many farmers have already delayed planting in order to help the Midwest recover. Reporting in Norfolk, Andrew Pfeiffer, News Channel, Nebraska.
In international news, an Israeli military official says Israel has captured the Gazan side of the Rafah crossing. It's a vital entry point for much-needed aid. The White House says the movement, the airstrikes, don't necessarily signal the start of a major offensive. In fact, Israel says it's a ceasefire negotiating tactic. But there are analysts worried for the millions of civilians taking refuge in the city. Amy Kiley has more.
Apparent gunfire sounds out of Rafah today heard over the border in Egypt. They're amid an Israeli military operation that left multiple people dead, according to Palestinian civil defense. It comes hours after Israel urged people to evacuate certain areas. It also follows celebrations over Hamas's agreement to a ceasefire and prisoner exchange.
There is a new opening door for a possibility.
A document obtained by CNN indicates the deal includes a, quote, period of sustainable calm. Protesters in Israel are urging their leaders to accept the offer and get back hostages. But Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his war cabinet aren't on board yet.
He wants a ceasefire and a hostage return, but not a permanent ceasefire. Hamas wants a prisoner exchange, hostage return, and a permanent ceasefire.
Israel and Hamas are set to continue negotiations today.
In parallel, we are still operating in the Gaza Strip and will continue to do so.
Israel says its latest airstrikes and movements are a way to pressure Hamas to meet demands. The White House says they aren't necessarily the start of a major offensive. Analysts say that would be devastating for civilians.
The president doesn't want to see operations in Rafah that put at greater risk the more than 1 million people that are seeking refuge there.
I'm Amy Kiley reporting.
Closer to home, the trial for the man accused of killing 4 people in Laurel is moving. Jason Jones, accused of fatally shooting 4 of his neighbors in 2022, now his trial moving out of Cedar County and into Dakota County. District Court Judge Brian Meismer agreed to move the trial for the 44-year-old, declaring that pretrial coverage made it impossible for Jones to get a fair trial in Hardington. Jones faces first-degree murder charges related to the deaths of Jean and Janet Twyford, their daughter Dana, and Michelle Ebling. He then allegedly set fire to his victims' homes. Jones was eventually found with severe burns and later arrested after being released from the hospital. His wife, Carrie, also faces a murder charge. Her case still in Cedar County. Jason Jones's trial slated to begin this September. Well, travelers can expect some major changes to what documents they need to fly. The enforcement of real IDs begins May 7th, 2025. That means you've got a year to make sure you've got the documents you need in order to travel. So what is Real ID, and what do you need to get one? Jen Sullivan breaks down what you need to know.
Some big changes are coming to what documents travelers need to board a domestic flight and or cross the border. As of May 7th, 2025, a traditional driver's license will no longer be accepted by TSA or U.S. Border Patrol. Instead, anyone 18 and older will need to present either a passport or a document known as a Real ID or an enhanced license. You'll also need one of these to enter a federal building. So what is a Real ID? Following the 9/11 attacks, the federal government set new security standards to obtain a state-issued driver's license and ID card, and some states began issuing them more than a decade ago. The standards will soon be enforced for people in all 50 U.S. states, territories, and D.C. The Real IDs in most states have a star in the top right corner. Some states, like California, may have a slight variation to the design, but the star will still be there. So, what do you need to obtain a Real ID? Some states may require proof of Social Security, either your original Social Security card or a tax document or pay stub showing your full Social Security number. Some states may require 2 proofs of residency, like a utility bill or bank statement, proof of status, such as a U.S. passport, U.S. birth certificate, or permanent resident card, and proof of citizenship if you're not a U.S. citizen. Remember, some DMVs require you to make an appointment in advance, so plan ahead. For Consumer Watch, I'm Jen Sullivan.
And finally, one of the world's most rural bike share stations is in Nebraska. People in Valentine can now rent bikes to ride throughout the area. Casey Wannenberg tells us why a nonprofit decided to give such a remote area a wheel.
To say Benny Foltz enjoys riding his bike would be an understatement. Foltz travels